Welcome to Rams Up, a Los Angeles Rams podcast. We are a proud member of the Pigskin Podcast Network. We cover other SoCal sports news of interest, but we're mostly about your Los Angeles Rams. I'm your host, Mark. Let's get to it. Welcome back, Ram fans. Season 2, Episode 33 of Rams Up, and thank goodness the preseason is over. Now we can get on to the real thing, Rams-Bills, that Thursday night opener. I wanted to give you a final wrap-up on that third preseason game, the 16-7 loss to the Bengals in Cincinnati. We did a quick drop on our YouTube channel last night reviewing this game, get into a little more detail here. I'm going to go through the defense first. We'll just go position group by position group and give you some feedback, tell you what I saw. Start with the defensive line. Two guys really stood out. Two guys I think are going to make this team, Jonah Williams and Michael Hoyt. Hoyt came up with that sack, bit of a coverage sack, but hey, he got to the quarterback. That's his job. And he was a significant contributor last year, so I think he's in. And Jonah Williams looked like a first stringer surrounded by a bunch of second stringers, played really well. He was a bit of a beast in there, actually. So, as I said last week, I think he makes this team. On the edge, some interesting developments. Chris Garrett. I'm starting to wonder if he's a one-trick pony. We only got to see him very briefly this preseason. Last preseason, he was incredible. This preseason, finally got on the field against the Bengals. And he looks very light, especially compared to Keir Thomas and Benton Whitley. You know, he got that one pressure. Other than that, not much to see, to be honest with you. And back to my one-trick pony comment, is he someone that can just get around the edge and get to the quarterback on occasion and doesn't bring much else? A speed rush, is that all he has? Meanwhile, Keir Thomas and Benton Whitley really tearing it up, especially Thomas. And shout out to Mina Kimes. Before the game, she said her player to watch was Keir Thomas, so good call by Mina. She nailed that one. Thomas may have done enough in this game to make the team. Now, I don't know what's going on in practice. Supposedly the Rams make a lot of their decisions based on practice and inter-squad scrimmages more than they do the preseason games, but based on what I saw, my eyes tell me Keir Thomas is actually going to make this team. Benton Whitley, I think he's destined for the practice squad. Chris Garrett, maybe they keep Garrett. Daniel Hardy will not be on this 53-man roster at the start of the season, apparently. But I don't know. Keir Thomas is my number 4 guy off the edge right now after Leonard Floyd, Justin Hollins, and Terrell Lewis. Inside linebacker, clearly we have Bobby Wagner and Ernest Jones leading the pack. Christian Roseboom hasn't played a down all preseason, so that indicates he's on this roster. Good special teams guy, too. And who's the 4th guy? Last week I was leaning towards Jake Gervais because of his flexibility, his ability to potentially play safety. You know, second thought on that is we're not going to need him to play safety, right? It'll never come to that. And meanwhile, Jake Hummel looking really good. Set a preseason record for the Rams with tackles all over the field. I think he still struggles in space, but performed very well. I don't know. I may put Hummel ahead of Gervais at this point. Not even sure they're going to carry 4 linebackers. They probably will. Right now, I'd call it Hummel, backtracking on my call last week. In the secondary, the only thing to really discuss there, aside from Kendrick and Durant struggled a little bit, got beat on that double move by an experienced and speedy Mike Thomas. Don't overthink that. Durant's going to be a good player. Has some things to work on, obviously, and Kendrick, he's on this roster for sure. Our next generation of cornerbacks, perhaps. But the safety position, Terrell Burgess and Russ Yeast, the thing is, Yeast will make it to the practice squad. Burgess will not. Burgess has actually played really well, especially last night, made a couple key tackles. And Yeast, he missed that one tackle. That pass over the middle, came up and made the hit. Did not make the tackle, though, and that's his number 1 job, right? And he struggled in coverage a couple times. So I'm going with Burgess over Yeast at this point, and to me it's pretty obvious based on the preseason performances anyways, not necessarily what's happening in camp. That's my take on the defense. Back in a second for my run at the offense. Football fans, the next generation of fantasy football is here with Rainmakers Football, the first ever NFT fantasy game from DraftKings. Craft lineups of athletes from your NFT collection and earn points for touchdowns, receptions, and more, just like daily fantasy football. The next generation of fantasy football is here. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now. Sign up with promo code TPPN. Click the Rainmakers tile and opt in to get your first card free. Plus, play for millions in prizes all football season while building the ultimate NFT fantasy franchise with Rainmakers Football. That's promo code TPPN. Build, play, win. Only at DraftKings. Contest entries dependent on type and number of NFTs held. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details. On to the offense. What players stood out in a good or bad way in this Bengals preseason game? Let's start with the offensive line. And I'm going to tell you, I did exactly what I told you I was going to do, actually. I focused exclusively on A.J. Arcuri. Trevor Ankrum and Alaric Jackson are both the backups on this roster after the starting five. They'll keep an additional player for sure, possibly two. And I'm hoping someone steps up. And based on what Andrew Whitworth said last week, Arcuri is a guy the Rams have been pleased with. So I took Andrew Whitworth's advice and I watched A.J. Arcuri. And he gave up a sack, got beat by a speed rush around the edge, bad play. But other than that, I think he won almost every one of his blocks. Very consistent pass blocking, run blocking. He got out on a screen pass that got blown up because someone else missed a block. But he looks like an NFL tackle, and he can play tackle and guard. So I think Arcuri is in. I'm not going to get into anything else along the offensive line because I really haven't had time. Overall, they obviously are not doing well in the run blocking department. So I'm not sure who else makes this roster besides the starting five and Arcuri, Jackson, and Ankrum. Maybe Bobby Evans, maybe Jeremiah Coloni. He's a guy that I penciled in last week. I'll stick with that for now, I guess, because I don't think anyone else has really done anything to stand out. Certainly not Bobby Evans. That's all I have to say about the offensive line at this point. Tight ends. I don't know if anyone that played last night is going to make this roster. I know Roger Carter has some attractive qualities, but I don't think he makes this roster unless you want to cut loose someone like Jacob Harris. The wide receiver group, that's what everybody wants to talk about, right? Lance McCutcheon getting it done. He's on this roster, right? There's no way they're going to try to get him through the waiver wire and onto their practice squad because it will not happen. And I think Jacob Harris makes this team. He's not really standing out. I think Perkins is just looking for McCutcheon at this point. But I think it's McCutcheon and Harris both making this team. Could be wrong on that. Maybe Harris could make it to the practice squad. That'd be kind of risky if the Rams really like him for his special teams contributions. I know that's one area he has the edge on McCutcheon. Very disappointing Kyren Williams didn't play, but the Rams clearly love him, and they're just putting him on the shelf for the regular season. So even though we haven't seen him, must be something good going on the practice fields. And McVay said as much, saying Williams has earned it. Now, Jake Funk, great special teams player. Has he ever gained more than 3.5 yards on a carry? I think Trey Ragas performed better, really pushing the pile, finding holes that seemingly aren't there. It's really painful for me to say this, but there's got to be 15 or 20 better running backs than Jake Funk on the market right now. If you just want a special teams guy, have at it. Keep Jake Funk. But I think his job might be at risk because of all these good young receivers they have that they'd rather keep. But do you go with just 3 running backs? Kind of risky. Now let's talk about the quarterback position. John Wolford unable to play, tore up his thumbnail apparently, so it was all Bryce Perkins. And all of you guys, all of you Ram fans that are just having this love fest over Bryce Perkins, hopefully that's dampened a little bit. He's an exciting player. He does some cool things with the ball in his hands. But I just don't think he's a great passer. They're going to keep him. He's going to be on this roster, I think. But the best quarterback on the field last night was actually Jake Browning. I'd love to have that guy as my second or third quarterback. Small data sample, I know. Might not know what I'm talking about with regards to Jake Browning, but all I can tell you is that's the type of quarterback play I appreciate. Just throwing darts, scrambling a little bit when he needed to. Really liked what he did. And look, I get it. Bryce Perkins is a great emergency quarterback in some situations, probably especially in the red zone, the things he can do with his feet. But this team would be in trouble if he's taking the helm for a 4 or 5 game set. I still take John Wolford over Perkins in that situation. And I might take Jake Browning over both of them. Now, our schedule is all screwed up because there's so much happening. Going to have cuts coming up here. May have already been some cuts by the time you hear this. So look for another drop pretty soon. Lots of good stuff coming your way. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. You can visit our website at ramsup.com. You'll find links to all of our episodes and a link to our YouTube channel. And you can also leave us a voicemail from our website. Don't forget to subscribe and give us that 5-star rating. It's really appreciated. And remember, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.
Music courtesy of bensound.com and the YouTube royalty-free music audio library, Crimson Fly by Humma Humma.